welcome to today's Event Well Talk, part of Event Wellbeing Month 2020. Today we have the wonderful Dan with us from FitCorp. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dan. It's very late where you are in Bangkok, so thank you for staying up late for us. We really appreciate it. Dan will be talking about how to get from stuck to empowered today. I think something we can all relate to at this current time and moment. But before I hand over to Dan, a few housekeeping bits. Remo, our amazing platform we're using, they provide us with a lot, but unfortunately not with toilets and fire exits. So I hope you know where they are, wherever you are right now. We do have a presentation from Dan. There is a little error in the top right-hand corner of his presentation when he will start it. So if you want to have it in full screen, please just click those arrows and it will go into full screen mode. Otherwise, we have a few tabs on the right-hand side as well. There's one for the Q&A. So any question you have coming up for Dan, please pop the questions in the Q&A, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end of his presentation. Any other questions, if you have any technical issues, please put them in the general chat. And someone from the team will help you there. Dan will stick around after the Q&A for some more networking at the table. So if you want to have a screen-to-screen conversation with him afterwards, please stick around and have a conversation with him then. But for now, I will hand over to Dan and let him do his thing.
Thank you so much. Well, guys, a big welcome and thank you for taking time out of your busy days. Hopefully you've been busy and productive. And this has really been an area of not just specialization, but real passion. This is what I've been doing for 25 years to really help people identify what they can do to always be moving forward and be resilient to those external environment and factors and triggers that can bring us down and maybe feel stuck and lost sometimes. So at any time, as Kim said, to feel free to add any questions in the chat, and I'll be having a little bit of a break so that we can go through some of those halfway through and also at the end as well. So of course, welcome to How to Move from Stuck to Empowered. I've established a business back in 2002 called FitCorp, only to focus on high performance coaching, living, business, team development. And so with recent months, this has certainly played a much bigger, more important role. But what I find is it always comes back to the same foundation. A lot of the time we overcomplicate things, and the most simple strategies are often the most effective ones. And so I'll be highlighting some of the key strategies and maybe some different perspectives that we have found very useful for our own clients and the companies that we work with, as well as the individuals and leaders and business professionals. So really the objective that I have for today is to give you a few simple strategies that will help you unlock your potential. So our potential is always beyond our average or beyond average performance. And so understanding what those accelerators are, also identifying what holds us back, what prevents us from being our ultimate self, is kind of facing our truth. But we will never find that truth. We will never gain clarity in what that strategy is or how to move forward unless we have a certain level of awareness. Now that awareness is something that we can, it's a skill, what I call a life skill. And once you can embed that into daily systems or routines or behaviors, then not much is going to change. So the fact that you're all in today's webinar means that you're very aware that you obviously want to unlock your potential and become your ultimate self. And I'll be sharing a few different insights. Now, again, I think anything that we enter, whether it's a course, or a program or learning or webinars, especially based on the amount of years that we spend in our career, rarely do we get really wowed. But what I find is that there are always reminders. We've heard lots of information, lots of tools, lots of learnings over the years, but there seems to be patterns. And those patterns is exactly what I'm going to be sharing today, are the most powerful elements that will always help you move forward and get unstuck. So to see if we can resonate with a few people today, is this session is really for people that, maybe you find yourself getting stuck or overwhelmed or confused or lack of clarity. Sometimes it's not even what's happening here, it's a feeling. You find yourself just, your wheels aren't turning, you're just not progressing in the direction that you want to be moving. You might find yourself anxious, stressed, and feeling lost, and you just don't know how to shift out of it, right? It's something that 95% of people are going through on a daily basis, and that is the stress. And when we get stuck in that stress, that's when we kind of lose control. And so learning how to pivot out of it or shift out is a critical life skill. Maybe you just procrastinate, right? You know what you should be doing. You've got to be focusing on tasks. Maybe there isn't strong, strict deadlines. And so you end up being distracted and not focusing on the task at hand. This in itself keeps us stuck. This is what builds stress, because our subconscious knows that we should be doing something else, and we start to have some friction, right? This is where we are no longer congruent with the direction and where we need to be. And so this leads us into that stuck state as well. Maybe it's about energy. Maybe you're not focused on what you need to be doing, or maybe you're just not happy with your current physical or mental health, your work, your job, or your self-confidence. So we see a lot of people who are very confident at work, but if they actually get into a space of awareness and they look at their own self-confidence, then we start to see some misalignment there, and that causes some stress as well. You also might be a high achiever where you know you have potential to achieve more, to do more, to contribute more, to be more, but you haven't quite found that winning formula. I'm going to be talking about formulas later as well, because this whole presentation is to give you the insight that winning formulas are about awareness, understanding triggers, building anchors, and learning how to be always moving forward. This is how you win or build your winning formulas. And the last one is that maybe you've invested in yourself and you know you're ready to step up your game. You're ready to rise up and you want to go to that next level with your inner power and self-control. And when I talk about control, I'm talking about your ability to take and focus on what you can control. And that is you. And whether you are running your own business, or you manage small teams or large teams, or you're a solopreneur, or you are greatly affected by the current situation, your inner power is your drive. It is your inspiration. And what we talk about are your aspirations. All right, so when you get clear on what those aspirations are, on your drive, on your own self-worth and self-value, this is what you need to then channel through different modalities of energy optimization and those mindset strategies to help keep you moving forward. And so the good news is, regardless of your current situation, regardless of what has happened in the past, the ability for you to make changes today, right from this moment, are real. Because the ability to shift and pivot is so simple and so powerful that it doesn't matter how difficult life is right now. When you start to apply these principles, you can move, and the only thing you need to focus on is not the big picture. It's focusing on the one thing. Just one small movement, one small implementation of an action is what will reduce your cortisol, give you some self-accomplishment, self-achievement, increase those dopamine levels, allow you to breathe and move forward. They are really simple strategies, but you have to embed them as part of your winning formula. So today I'm going to be identifying the 5 roadblocks that keep all of us stuck and how to pivot. We're going to learn and identify ways to change from a stuck to a powerful or an empowered state. I'll introduce to you what I call the Spiderweb power tool. And this is what will give you instant clarity or give you the opportunity to identify what you need to focus on first, right? That start point, that first step is absolutely critical. And that'll introduce to you what we call the double loop system. So it's looking at habits, it's looking at behaviors, it's understanding how they work so that you can intercept them. So with a lot of our clients, we've developed these tools, we've developed principles, and one of them is called that trigger interception. So it's not just being aware of the stresses and the environment around us, it's learning that critical point where you can intercept and pivot quickly before it takes a negative impact on your emotions, right? Before you start feeling anxious, before you start feeling stressed. So again, about me, even though I'll keep this short, but just give you a little reference point so that we can keep it in perspective. I've been in the health and performance industry for 25 years. So this has really been a journey and a constant pursuit to identify winning formulas of successful people, whether that was in an athletic space or a professional corporate domain. And so this has really been based on my initial studies of psychology, physiology, and workplace corporate leadership. So all my studies have been revolved around coaching, neuro-linguistic programming, stress management, and looking at what is that critical factor that will allow us to manage ourselves and then have an impact on our teams and our circle of influence. And that circle of influence is a critical principle of people that we engage in on a daily basis. So one of the key quotes that I share early on a presentation is understanding our ability to perform. And that one word is our capacity to be resilient, our capacity to achieve, to progress, to be aware. And this all comes down to that survival mechanism of efficiency. So for our ability to expand our capacity is to perform in a high stress environment without compromising health, our well-being, or relationships. And so health can be energy, our well-being can be our mindset, it can be our holistic self. And of course, relationships then extend to every single individual, group, or business or team that we engage with that are important to our happiness and being content. And so none of this is about money and wealth and driving success. It's about being happy. And being stuck, being stressed, feeling anxious, having that negative impact on our emotions, then impacts our happiness and our self-confidence and our self-worth. And so that ability to expand that capacity to grow and evolve and be resilient is absolutely crucial as a life skill. So even when I'm working with teams, we see a lot of education and a lot of focus. Let's say most of the investment of teams and businesses really is from the top down. And my critical point here is these life skills of mastery and being resilient and increasing our awareness. These are life skills that need to be taught from the bottom up. And that, I think, is where we are going to meet into a very different corporate culture, or what I call a self-led culture. So how to move from stuck to empowered? Now, I'm sure we've probably experienced that stuck state, but we use different words, different language, different terminology that might define what that problem is. And so just using a general term of being stuck, it's something that you don't need to think about. Okay, it's like making decisions, building this intuition, building trust in our feelings and what's happening here, will always be your primary, correct, positive navigation to get out. And so understanding that subconscious, unconscious, and conscious mind and how they work, those voices in our head, because you probably had a conversation with yourself, even waiting for us to get on today. First thing when you wake up, when you're sleeping, when you're trying to go to sleep, when you're on the phone to your friend, you're actually thinking things and having those conversations before you even say it. And so understanding what that moment when you can intercept and engage in these conversations is a critical component of success. So Charles Darwin said it's not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but it is the most responsive to change. And so you've probably heard that another quote before, which is the only constant in life is change. We need to expect change. We need to learn how to pivot with change and adapt and be versatile and have that agile mindset to be able to not react to negative experiences or negative people, but learning how to deflect. All right. So when some people, some coaches, you talk about how you respond to stress or how you respond to people. And I think this is a critical detail. Whereas if we're already responding, then we're already investing energy in that negative space. And if we can build that resilience or that intuition to just pivot and allow that negative energy to just simply deflect, and then you focus on that first task, then you will never be affected by external experiences or the environment or people, right? Because they have their own problems too. They've got their own issues. And this all comes down to these power questions. So the same thing applies. It is our ability to be responsive to change that will allow us to thrive, be resilient, be able to maintain control, right? Control, focus on what we can control, and then pivot towards positive outcomes every single time. And so this is where it starts with you. And when you're running businesses, you're managing teams, you're engaging with other teams, clients, customers, family, children, whatever it might be, your primary objective needs to be your ability to master your own self-leadership. This is your guidance. This is your navigation. It's your GPS. Because then you have the skills to be able to pivot and move through and navigate through any situation. Now, we build affirmations. So I don't know if many of you have used affirmations before. Maybe you can let me know in the chat. It's not about the law of attraction or any kind of woo-foo out there. Your affirmations are strong communications to your own self-leadership. And one of the most powerful ones that we like to use, and this came up with one of our coaching sessions with one of our group clients, was all about stress and feeling stuck. And it was a situation that she can anticipate because it happens all the time. So she could identify patterns, but she would still embrace that situation every single time with fear, with stress, with anxiety. And all I needed to do was ask her one question. And that one question was, do you always have a solution? And she's like, yeah. So I said, perfect. There's no point being stressed if you always have a solution. I said, do you always have the resources and the solutions when you need them? She's like, yeah. So I said, you can anticipate the stress coming. You always have answers. So therefore, you're always in control of that situation. Is that right? She's like, yeah. So she said, I've always got solutions and I'm always in control. And that has become a mantra. It has become a critical point of daily communication that has now embedded into an automatic, intuitive behavior and mindset that allows her to always be in control, because she's always got resources, she's always got solutions. And that's what I mean, how simple things can be to be able to navigate. And so that's just one part of self-leadership, and also to create that self-led culture. Now, the critical point on self-leadership is to be able to ask these power questions. And so asking your powerful questions is really about reflection. And we're going to talk about some power anchors. We're going to cover 8 different power anchors that you will be able to use instantly for different situations, and they will always be on demand. They are always with you, and you will start to identify your own winning formula of what is more powerful, and identify those 1 or 2 things that are just your critical power anchor. So the power of questions might be something like when a situation that you're challenged with that didn't go your way, whether it was related to your team, say the environment, the global situation, is what is good about this situation. It's a bit like gratitude. We're always looking at the positive aspects or the learnings that we can obtain from that situation. Like now, for example, what's good about this situation? We've let go of the fear of communicating virtually, globally. There was a resistance from a large part of events, the corporate sector, that they said, no, we can't do this virtually. We have to do it in person. It's just not the same. And now we're forced in that. So now people are actually becoming better communicators. We're spending, hopefully, less time in meetings and more time getting things done and collaborating. All right, so there's a lot of thinking outside of the box that has now taken place out of necessity. So again, what's good about this situation? What did I learn from that situation? What could I be doing better in a similar situation next time if something similar arises? All right, we're starting to identify patterns and always being resourceful. Okay, so resourcefulness is another key skill when it comes to success, mindset, leadership, growth, and happiness. So a few simple ones are, and I don't know, for those of you that are joining today, if you are working for yourself, whether you run your own businesses, whether you are leading and managing large teams, but there's probably something that brought you, that triggered your attendance today. And maybe you don't know what it is. Maybe you have some idea. Maybe you already have clarity on exactly why you're here and what you want to try and get out of it. But these questions can be really simple. And they might just be, where are you now in your life? How satisfied are you? Are you living with purpose? Are you actually happy? Are you super happy? Are you excited to wake up in the morning? Are you excited to get to work or to start work on a Monday? This is a critical question. I would say probably 85 to 90% of people are not excited to get stuck into their work on Monday. All right, so it's an obvious question. Now, if you can answer that question of where are you now, if you're not happy, now you start to ask these layered questions of what's not working, or what am I not happy about? This is the first thing. It might be people, colleagues, your income, the industry that you're in, the fact that you're lost, right? I know a lot of you are in corporate events and MICE, right? So big changes here. Maybe if we could be looking at what's good about this situation, maybe this is allowing you to really explore opportunities to grow and pivot into different niche markets. It might be still with events, it might be in specific industries, but it's giving you a platform to think and really consider what's important to you, right? To find that foundation. And then when you start to get clarity on where you might want to be going or what that life looks like, now you can start being resourceful. And as I said before, resourcefulness is a key skill. It's a skill set of self-leadership. I think it was Tim Ferriss. He said that the best option is the option that gives you more options. Okay? And it's a great statement when you are at this critical point where you need to be resourceful and you need to be brainstorming. And of course, there's lots of different tools, lots of different ways that you can be doing your brain dumps and brainstorming and mind maps. And this is also part of these anchors when you start to be visual, right? You start to use what we call sensory acuity to be able to dial in, because this is where you start to tap into the power of the subconscious. This is where the magic happens. And so, of course, if you are aware of this, now you can start integrating more of your senses to be resourceful, to be looking at options so that you can then break it down into the very simple, specific actions that you need to move forward. Now, I guess at this point is a silly question. In the last 3 months, how many of you have felt stressed or unstuck? I mean, this is why we're all here. So how many, you can answer in the chat. And if you can also let me know what is your biggest stress point right now. Because what I find is also important during these presentations is that the more information and the more detail I get from you, then I can apply what I'm sharing that will be of benefit to your current situation. So cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously is a lack of direction. We're looking at income, right? We're looking at our career. We're looking at how we can be self-sufficient. It's how do we evolve? Like, what's happening next month? What am I going to be doing in a year from now? And of course, those uncertainties certainly bring a lot of fear and anxiety. And this is really what people want. They want you to react like this. So using those affirmations and looking at those limiting beliefs, of course, looking at how we reframe situations, are still how we can now pivot stress into positive outcomes. So these stress accelerators, now without going into detail, like I said, keeping things super simple, I find is the easiest way to change. And so we identify the 5 top stress accelerators. They're not just the triggers, but they actually accelerate stress further. First one, of course, is negativity. Now, the negativity is not just with toxic people. We're talking about negative feelings, negative emotions, negative experiences. And these are the things that ultimately form part of our circle of influence. So, of course, we can control our internal and negative feelings and emotions and pivot, but we can't control how others behave. But we can certainly choose and make a decision on how we deflect or react to them. Number 2 is stress itself, or just having a busy mind. So we hear the words being overwhelmed or trying to, always busy, trying to do too many things at the same time. And so stress will accelerate more stress. And the reason that it does this is because it creates a domino effect. And then it starts to create a norm. Okay, this becomes your set point. It becomes your operating procedure. It's just how you do things. And so when you're always engaged, when you're always just focused and trying to push the limits all the time, and we build a resilience And this is what unfortunately leads to burnout, because it becomes your norm. You lack the awareness to be able to disengage or be able to download. So of course, that obviously will have an impact on your emotional and negative emotions towards people, because things will break, things are going to snap, and things are going to fall apart. And that domino effect also links back to food. And we could call about nutrition. Remember, it's not the food itself, it's what the food does to you. So think about situations when you've been stressed, you've got deadlines, you're short on time, you're multitasking, you've got 1,000 things in your head and you're trying to do multiple things all at the same time. You don't have time to eat, but your energy levels drop. And so what do most people do? You reach for convenient, fast, processed foods. So then we're looking at sugar, we're looking at the impact of insulin. Okay, now with insulin, now we have fake energy, we have drop in blood sugar, and it starts to create this ripple effect of leading to more stress, because we're not thinking straight. Our energy levels, our mental capacity is inhibited, and so we start delaying or extending our time to complete tasks. Then we take work home, that then impacts relationships at home. We go to bed late, we're not getting quality sleep, we're not able to de-stress during our sleep, right? That's where that synaptic pruning takes place. And so, of course, we're not waking up fresh. We're not waking up engaged in a positive mindset. We're probably exercising less. And so the food is then just the tip of the iceberg, then leads to that massive ripple effect that, unless we're able to intercept, will just take over. And of course, inactivity. I think you may have heard that they now have enough research to say that sitting is the new smoking. So the correlation to poor health and disease of being inactive is equal to smoking. And of course, we know all the dangers of processed foods, obesity, disease. We can even be looking at the COVID deaths, that it is always the percentage of those that have 2, 3, 4, up to 7 health complications that have led to those statistics. And so in the power anchors that I'm going to take you through in the next part is to show that the reason that most people are inactive is because they think it needs to be about going to a gym or spending lots of time to be exercising or having that external structured exercise, when you can see that there are many strategies. I mean, I'm up here standing at my standing desk. I'm like this all the time. And it is just the very simple strategies that could help you and your teams have more mental focus, keep moving, stay on target, be more efficient with your time. And movement is actually energy. So when we're stressed, when we haven't had much sleep, it's not about grabbing food, it's about movement. So if we are sitting more often, which a lot of people are around the world, we're working from home, spending a lot more time at a desk, and probably not a structured ergonomic environment or a setup. And what we found, we actually did some research throughout Asia and the Middle East and the UK. This was very, very early on in lockdown. That was probably around April, May. And we found that one of the biggest issues in mental health was actually ergonomic pain. So again, we can take that same domino effect with ergonomic pain, whether it's headaches or wrist pain, shoulder pain, back pain. It is all because of the inactivity. It's not because of poor ergonomics, it's because of weakness and inactivity. And that is why it leads to more stress, because when we're in pain, that is now taking over from our mental capacity and our ability to perform at our best, to be empowered, to be moving forward. And so if you can be moving more, you can reduce your ergonomic pain, be engaged, have that higher level of mental capacity and engagement, be more effective in your outcomes. And so, of course, this leads to poor time management. You'll notice that within these top 5, I didn't talk about our boss or work demands or our colleagues or toxic, say, people in the workplace so much. It's about our ability to manage time. Okay, so people might influence your work tasks, but you are still in control to be able to manage your time effectively. And so when we're not managing time effectively, we're spending more time to do the same task. And when that ripple effect, when that then transfers across into other areas, family, social, disengagement, right? Disengaging from work, this is where it starts to create stress. Does that make sense for everyone? Who can relate to any of these? Maybe in the chat, you can just let me know. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of which is probably one of the biggest critical factors of stress or causes of stress for you.
We had quite a bit of action about the stress in the chat, Dan. People have been sharing what's been stressing them out. It's a lot about job security. I think that's a big point at the moment in events. Feeling relevant at work, having that security at the moment. We think, they're opening everything up again, things are picking up, and then new restrictions come back into place. So there could be the possibility of starting a new job and a month in, 2 months in, you would lose it again. So I think that is a big stress factor in the industry at the moment for a lot of people. What would you say about that? How to deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, this is perfect because it really affects everyone, really. And so I would be bringing it back to that same power question is, if job security is your biggest area of stress, what can you do? Right? You can't impact what's happening externally, but what skills do you have? What resources could you tap into? What new skills could you develop to help you either work independently? All right, so I worked with one of my clients and we laughed about it back at the time. And for him and his business, he went from hero to zero, like a lot of businesses. And he went to zero income. And so we looked at all of his skill sets and we looked at what could we do? What do people need? What are the resources or the services that other businesses or people need at this time? And he ended up earning $20,000 a month during lockdown from zero. And this was it. And they weren't his specific skills. He just went in and looked at, okay, people need to develop websites. They need to do their branding. They need to establish new businesses. So he just went into Facebook groups and offered to do one-page web designs for free. And he said that if you like what I did and you appreciate my work, then you can pay whatever, $500, $1,000, only if you're truly satisfied. And so within 2 weeks, he'd made $10,000. Now, it may not be a career opportunity, but it is the power of asking those questions of, okay, what else can I do to take responsibility and be responsible and independent, regardless of what is happening externally? Right, so that's just one example. He then did 4 or 5 other businesses. So job security is, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years and I've been self-sufficient for nearly those 2 decades. And so I don't need to worry about job security. It's about what passive income could you do? What are your passions? What are your interests? How could you monetize your current skill set already and provide value and impact for others based on what you already have, what you're passionate about, or an area that you would like to pursue or seek further interest in. All right, so I'm all about independence. And so if you can be truly independent and be generating, you know, small, I mean, for me, $4,000, $5,000, it's a lot of money, but that's more than enough to live well and safely. So it really depends for you, Gail, on some of those questions, and feel free to add more in the chat as well if you've got a more specific case or situation, right? Because it's for everyone. So the only way that you can eliminate that is to take control of your own independence and be self-sufficient. And there's a lot of ways. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I think, yeah, and I think it goes back to Victoria's question she had as well in terms of motivation. She doesn't feel motivated right now because she's doing other tasks in the business at the moment and not doing the live events. So find the skills that you're passionate about and get the motivation through those again, and get around those live events that unfortunately we can't do at the moment. So I think that goes back to that question as well. We had another one from Carol saying she's lacking the direction, so she doesn't know where to go at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. Trying to find a job and lack of direction. Got it. And so this is when we talked about resourcefulness and looking at all options. Some of the resources that you might need would be, like, I'm a member of many Facebook groups, and there are so many entrepreneurial and even on the coaching groups. And there are so many coaches out there who are offering free coaching services because they're trying to build a clientele and experience as well, right? So there's people out there willing to give advice or feedback or be a sounding board for people with challenges as well. You just need to take action to go and find them, connect, and they can help you as well, right? If you're not in a position to actually invest in those kind of coaching resources or support, go and find them. They're out there. All right. Now, again, getting back to the stress of trying to find a job, being resourceful and asking these powerful questions might be, what industries are excelling right now? Because it's not boom and bust for everyone in all industries. Some industries are absolutely thriving. The health space, right? This mental health, people are stuck at home. There's loads of information out there to support or partner with, and it's like a lot of opportunities. If you can align, right, you've got to start at things that you're passionate about first. So don't act on desperation. Think about it. What are you really passionate about? What is going to excite you to move forward? What are those industries? What are those companies? Who do I know? Who could I connect with on LinkedIn? Right? Build your network, connect, do your outreach, and just make sure that they all funnel down to something that you're really passionate about, that is linked to an industry that's doing well, or some skill set that is still required regardless of the economic climate. So much.
Perfect. Yeah, people are agreeing with you in the chats. They're saying Facebook groups are great. LinkedIn is a great platform. You know, find the tribes of like-minded people to elevate your skills and get in touch. We don't have any questions coming in, but people seem to be busy in the chat right now. So maybe it's the right time to like go back to networking, and, you know, so they can see you, you can see them, and we can have a discussion. Thank you so much for the talk, Dan. It was amazing. I heard a few new things in there that I hadn't heard before. So it was really great to get all that information from you. So yeah, if anyone wants to talk to Dan directly now, put a few questions toward him, or just have a conversation about anything he said, then please just stay on the platform. We'll finish the presentation here and we go back onto the networking tables. Just double click the table he is on, put your camera on, put your mic on, and have a conversation with Dan. Thank you so much again, Dan.
All right. Thanks to everyone.